Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon on the Lightning Forms Designer Suite. First of all, just want to welcome everybody to the call, and let's get started. So, first of all, I'm just going to do a very quick introduction to Lightning Tools for anybody that hasn't joined one of our webinars before. We're a company based in the Midlands of the UK, and we also have an office in the US as well, which is based in Florida. We, for the past 17 years, have been providing different products for Microsoft SharePoint. They include things like permissions management and reporting for site owners and site collection admins. We also have a content aggregator as well, known as the Lightning Conductor. And we have discussion board tools and data integration, and of course the form design tools that we're going to be taking a look at today. And they include the Lightning Forms itself, which is the form design experience for SharePoint lists. And we also have a product that accompanies that as a premium action, and that's known as the document generator, which we'll be getting into today. And we also have another tool that can sit nicely alongside Lightning Forms, which completes the Lightning Forms Designer Suite, and that's known as the SharePoint List Actions. So we can use the list actions to build effectively workflow actions against the lists or list items, and allows you to create buttons without any code on the command bar of those lists and libraries, so that you can trigger a series of different actions either against single items or also across multiple items. And if you were here maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we also introduced a new product from a partner of ours known as Kudzu, which is the Kudzu Form Migrator, and that enables us to migrate from InfoPath forms and other form technologies such as PDF forms and Word forms and so on, and take those and generate the same form design using SharePoint lists and Lightning Forms. That can also migrate data as well. So if you're using form libraries that already have data in them, that data can also be migrated. And yeah, we've also got an announcement around that product today, which is to do with a Kudzu bot. So we'll be looking at that very shortly. So that's not strictly part of the Form Designer Suite, but kind of a plus item on the Form Designer Suite, should that be required. So that's effectively Lightning Tools. What we're going to first of all do is just introduce each of these different products and what they can do for you. So in general, as a suite of products, Lightning Forms, Lightning List Actions, and the Document Generator help you, as do many other form design tools, help you to streamline workflows throughout your organization. So for different departments, we can get away from paper-based forms or standard sort of PDF forms and so on that we used to print, maybe complete, scan, and then share via email. We can make that more seamless by using digital forms that users can complete. That ensures better data accuracy, also saves you time, of course, and also money and printing and so on. And more importantly, you can also connect or collect real-time data insights. So we're not having to scan information. We can find the data that's collected through SharePoint lists or other repositories and act accordingly. And of course, it's a much better experience for end users that are completing the forms. We can have digital validation and so on, and also improved accessibility. So through the use of the browser, either on your phone or on your desktop, you can complete these forms. And of course, there's the opportunity for integration or analytics with things like Power BI and so on against the SharePoint lists as well. So the Form Designer is actually Lightning Forms, and Lightning Forms gives us the ability within SharePoint, so within the context of SharePoint, to be able to design improved layouts. So we can drag and drop fields in the order that we want them to appear in. We can create tabs and so on as well to position different fields. So if there's certain fields that should appear together, they can appear together under a tab and can be more easily found. We can also add lots of business logic without the need to write any code at all. Or you can also write code if you wish to. So we can extend those using JavaScript as well. And you can also completely style your form. So Lightning Forms has that ability natively. We can go into the styling, style different fields. We can also add conditional formatting and so on as well using that styling option. And there's also the action builder embedded into Lightning Forms, allowing you to build command bar actions within the form, or we can also create action buttons on the form. So maybe something that appears directly next to a field or something along those lines. So we're going to start off with a demo of Lightning Forms, first of all. So what we're going to do is create a support desk ticketing solution. So I'm going to bring up my SharePoint environment, and this is going to be a newly created site. So we're going to create a new site here using SharePoint, and we'll name it accordingly. So I'm just going to choose the modern team site option. So of course it's going to be creating a Microsoft 365 group for me, as well as a SharePoint Online site. So we're just going to call this the LT ticketing system, and we'll go through and accept all the defaults. We won't add any members at this time, and we'll just hit finish. So, so that's of course going to provision this brand new SharePoint site for me. And once that's provisioned, we're going to get a prompt any moment now to use one of the templates. There it is. So we're going to browse some of these templates that are now offered by Microsoft for our modern sites. And we're going to start off with the IT Help Desk template. So we'll select that and use that template, and that will give us the basic lists that we want to start working with. So we could of course just created a ticketing list, but there's a few other lists that actually complete this SharePoint site, allowing us to, as employees, raise support tickets within our help desk. So you can see this is taking on a nice look and feel. And there's a number of other different options that we could go through, but I'm just going to close that panel for now. So this is actually one of the list templates that we can use to submit a support ticket. So if I click onto that, you'll notice that we get a new SharePoint list. So as we navigate into that SharePoint list, let's give that a moment to pop up. There we go. We've got the fields that you would expect to see. So when we hit new, we get the modern side panel appearing. Again, let's just close the next steps. There we are. And you'll notice that we've got a single side panel with a single column of fields. So things like the issue description, the priority, which is a choice column. We also have the status, so whether it's in progress, new, or something appearing by design, etc. In there. And then we've also got assigned to, date reported, issue source, etc. So typically the types of fields that you would expect to see. But the logic isn't quite right, because if I was to submit this ticket as an end user, it may not be down to me to actually select the status or assign someone to work on this ticket. So we're going to make a few changes using Lightning Forms. So we're going to close this side panel first of all, and we'll jump into Lightning Forms. So you'll notice there's a Lightning Forms button appearing on the command bar, so that's available to any site owners. And when we click that, it's going to give us the option of customizing the new form, the edit form, and also the display forms, the three forms that effectively make up a SharePoint list. We can, if we want to, also create our own forms. So we can click onto the plus there, provide a new file name for the ASPX file, and that would basically give me a new display form that I could then call via an action as and when that's required. So maybe we want a subset of fields shown as a sort of dialogue when we're completing the form or displaying the form. So we're going to start off on the new form. So the form that's used to create new items, of course. So when we go into that, that launches the design experience, and it's in here where we can get started with positioning our controls, adding rich text controls, creating different sections and so on our form. And it's with a new section that I'm going to start off with. But first of all, let's just make this form wider, because that's one of the things I always forget to do and then come back to do. So I'm going to keep a modern side panel, but we're going to take up more of the space of the page, so we've got more room to work with a sort of multi-tabbed and multi-column format on our form. So we'll make that large. And then right at the very top here, we're going to add a new one column section. And the reason for that is this one column section is going to contain a rich text control. So you'll notice when I hit the plus here, I can add the different fields that come from that SharePoint list. They are actually already on the form because we're customizing the default form. So we can add additional fields or create new fields, and then we can also use things like the cross-site data lookup column, which we're going to be getting into today, as well as some other controls like tabs and buttons, rich text and so on, which you'll also see in a moment. And then we can also add other SharePoint lists and libraries that exist inside of this site as a sublist on the form as well. And if you're familiar with InfoPath, that's kind of like a repeating table type scenario that you can add onto your form here. So I'm going to start off with rich text. And inside that rich text area, we could provide a heading. So we're just going to have the heading of support ticket. So we can add a bit of text. So you can use the rich text control literally anywhere on your form. So not just for a heading, but you could perhaps use this to provide a set of instructions on how to fill out certain fields or insert images, anything else like that. I'm just going to leave a couple of spaces, and then I'm also going to put in the word issue in here. And we're going to introduce a new feature in this release where I can actually use placeholders within inside a rich text area so that we can add a richer title, if you like, to our form. So we really want the issue number to stand out. That's my title field in this case. So the underlying field name is title. So we're just going to go through and add that. And I want the priority also to be very obvious to anybody that is dealing with this ticket. So we're just going to pick up the priority as well. Notice that the priority column is down here, and I'm going to add that as a placeholder on my form. And yeah, in here you could not just reference fields with placeholders, but you could also create calculations that may show you the current user that signed in or anything like that that you want to do, also with a date control or something along those lines. So we'll just style these a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time on the styling. Let's just use one of the built-in styles so we get that. But what I'm going to do is just add a bit of styling to the section. So we're going to configure, sorry, we're not going to go that way though. We're going to go this way through styling. So under styling, we've got the ability to go through and set styling on every type of control. So whether it's fields or rows, also command bar buttons, etc. So that would apply the style to every control of that type. And then underneath that, we've also got individual controls that we can go through and set. So what I'm going to do is choose the first row in my form, which is the row that we've just added with a new section. We're going to add a new style to that, and we'll just accept the default name. I'm going to use the expression builder to build a rule as to when this style should show. So when we click onto the expression builder here, we can add our rule. So what we're going to have is basically against the status of this form. So if the status is equal to new, then we want to display this in a slightly different color. So I'm going to change the background color of that section, and I'm going to choose this theme color here because that's kind of in line with the conditional formatting on that column anyway. So notice how that generates the styling for me, and we can preview it as well. So this whole section here that we've added with the rich text becomes that pale blue if it's a new ticket. And I could either build that as a sort of if statement, or I could add or duplicate these styles. I'm just going to do that because it'd be simpler. Let's just copy this one, and we'll add another one that says completed. So if this is a completed support ticket, then we could maybe break away from the theme colors and choose a green color, and I'll fade that down a little bit, otherwise it looks a little bit ghastly, but there we go. So this is our green that we've got applied to that. So we've got some nice conditional formatting being applied to our form. We could do that for every field as well. So we could apply conditional formatting actually to the status field or to the priority field or anything along those lines. So let's just save and close the styling. So that's complete. We've then got the ability to add tabs on our form as well. So continuing the layout, what we're going to do is just add a few tabs using the tab control. So we'll come down here to the tab control. Notice how we get our initial tab here. So we're just going to add a name for that tab or a description for that tab, which is going to be ticket information. And we could choose an icon associated with that as well, so we can browse the built-in Fabric icons. So here's a ticket. Let's use that. So we've got our first tab, and then we can also go through and add a few other tabs as well. So I'm going to add 4 tabs in total. Yeah, my second tab here is going to be ticket history. This is going to contain a sublist, so I'll show you how we can generate that in just a moment. Let's just choose something here that somewhat resembles a list. I know that's the align left icon, but it's near enough. And we're also going to go through and add a manager tab as well. Now I want this one to only be enabled for maybe help desk managers, line managers, etc., so they can come in and assign the ticket to the right person. So the way that we can control when that is enabled, we could control it using any field or any logic we like, but I'm going to use a SharePoint group to check whether the current user is a member of the help desk managers SharePoint group. So anybody we add into that group will be able to edit the fields inside this tab. So with that, we'll just choose a person icon. This guy will be fine. Go. And we'll come back to that one in a moment and create a sublist in there. Yeah, ticket details. So we'll just have details here as our fourth tab. Okay, and maybe again, just choose one of those icons. We'll choose the align right, this one. So we've got our 4 tabs. Under each tab, we can choose different row configurations. We can also add new row sections as well. So I'm just going to split this out into 2 columns to make it easier to navigate those. We'll keep the ticket history at 1 column. Manager will perhaps split that one out to 2 as well, and details, yeah, also 2 columns wide. Okay, so we're starting to get the layout that we want inside our forms. So under the ticket information, I'm going to drag this field, the issue, and we're then going to add a new 1 column section to that, so we can mix and match the sections, and we're going to have the issue description. So when the user comes in here, they can basically see the issue number that perhaps auto-generated, it won't be initially, and they can also write out the description. Now, what I also want on here is a lookup to perhaps the product that this ticket is related to, and I don't have that field inside this list. So what we're going to do is actually create a data lookup. And this is going to look up from another site. So in this site here, we've got a list called products that contains all the Lightning Tools products. So I'm going to create a lookup column called products, and we'll drop in the URL to the site. So that URL, once again, is a separate site in a separate site collection. And from there, we can then choose the products list, which contains the list of products that I want to look up from. We can choose the display column. So I'm going to opt for the title column. And by making this an enhanced lookup, one of the new features, again, in this release, is the ability to show multiple columns in that lookup. So we can show the title column, and I'm also going to show the supported environment, so we can see whether it's a product that will only work with SharePoint on premises or one that will work with Teams and also SharePoint Online. So you can see the correct products, and notice that these also have the word searchable next to them as well. So these are columns that I can actually search for. So if we've got hundreds or thousands of items that we're looking up from, we can not just have to scroll down through the lookup column, but we can use a search to find the right value that we're looking for. So we'll OK that, and that will give us a brand new connector. That just takes a moment to render, and you can see it here in use in the design environment. So notice that we've got the different products. It looks like they're duplicated on the left-hand side, but that's because they're appearing for different support environments. Now, if this was hundreds of lines long, we can now start to search for the product that we want to use and basically select that value and store the value that we were after. Okay, so there's our lookup column. We've also then got the ability to set the priority, so we'll just drag that in here as well, so the user can determine that. We've then got some other fields such as status, etc., and we're going to drop those here into the ticket details area. The manager can set who this is being assigned to, and under details again, we'll just shift the date that was reported, and maybe the issue source as well, and who the issue was logged by. There's no reason for the user to be entering those, we can obtain those automatically using some code. Okay, so that's the general layout with the exception of the ticket history. So we're going to go in and create that first of all. So I'm just going to save and close this form for a moment. And we'll just have a quick peep as to what it looks like so far. That next steps is very persistent. Okay, what you'll see when we hit the new button is we've got a much wider form. We can see instantly that this is a new ticket. Obviously, it's a new SharePoint list item, and that is matching up with the status here. So that's showing new, and then we've got the actual issue that we can describe and of course set the priority and so on as well. And notice how that is writing up to that new placeholder. So if I was to call this issue 123, then that has been created in there, and we're displaying that value. So it's going to be clear to everybody when they open this ticket as well. All right, when we click onto manager, notice that I can't change who this is assigned to because I am not a manager. So once we've created that SharePoint group, I've made myself a member of it. I'll be able to change that field as well. So we can secure those fields depending on the different roles. And then of course we've got the details here, which we'll go through and set in just a moment. So that's all good. Let's just save it. And I'm just going to create another quick list here. So we'll navigate back home. Okay, and we'll create a new blank list. And this is going to be called the ticket history. So we can keep track of everything that we've tried to resolve the ticket that's come in. So we've of course got our title column ready to go. All we're going to add here is just a couple of fields. I'll leave the rest to your imagination. So we're going to have a comments field that we can add, which is going to be multiple lines of text. Okay, so and we'll also have a date as well, which would be useful. So we'll just call that date, and maybe we'll have another column to keep track of the hours spent trying to troubleshoot this ticket as well. So we'll create that as a number. Let's just call that hours, that's fine. Okay, so we've got our brand new list. Let's navigate back. So we'll go back to the submit a new ticket list that we get as part of this template. And what we're going to do is go through and customize that again, and we'll pull in the sublist, and we'll get into some of the different calculations that we're going to also add to this form as well. So that way you'll see a bit of the logic as well as the layout. So we'll edit the new form again. Okay, and under the ticket history, we'll go through and add this time our newly created list. So as we scroll down, there's the ticket history list. So that's now embedded. If it contained items, we'd see those items. What we're going to do is make this a sublist by joining the sublist with the primary list using a lookup column. Now, I didn't create a lookup column, so we're going to create one here. So lookup to tickets is the name that it's going to get. We can cascade delete as well. So should I, for whatever reason, delete the support ticket, that will also delete the history as well, so we don't end up with any orphaned items. And we'll just OK and accept the other defaults for that ticket history. That's our sublist created. Now, just another thing that the manager might want to be aware of is the total number of hours spent trying to troubleshoot this ticket. So what I'm going to do here is add another new column. So there's no need to go outside of the designer for this. I'm just going to create that as total hours. And of course, I wouldn't be able to create this as a calculated column and calculate from another list using SharePoint natively. So we're just going to create that as a number column. So that's created. And now we can get into the expression configuration for total hours. And we're going to create this as a calculation. So we can get into the expression builder here. And using the expression builder, we can, of course, add two fields together and so on. We can use different operators here to be able to build the calculation that we're after. What I'm going to do is expand this sublist section here and expand the sublist that we created, the ticket history, and you'll notice on there that we've got the hours column, and it's showing me a few different aggregate functions that I can just go ahead and use. So I'm going to double click onto the sum aggregate function. So we've grabbed that, and we can test that against an item or just accept it. So we're just going to accept that one, and we should have this calculating the total hours from the sublist that was spent on this ticket. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is get into some actions. So currently we've got a save button and a cancel button. Problem with that is nobody's necessarily going to know that this ticket even exists unless they come into the actual list itself. So we're going to go in and create our own button here. We'll say or change the save button, so we'll edit the properties of that one and just rename that to save draft. And we're going to go in and add a new save and submit button to make it a little bit more obvious that this is actually going to go somewhere. And we'll just choose a send icon for this. Okay, and configure some actions. So the action builder has a series of different actions that we can choose from. First thing I'm going to do is save the form. And once we've saved the form, we could send an email. And that email is going to be sent to whoever the ticket manager is, so they can come in and they can assign this to somebody. Who it's going to be sent from would be the current user. So if I was an employee raising a support ticket, we would want to capture my email address that it's going from. So we can get to the current user profile properties from the contextual objects here, and we can go in and choose the email address or the login name and so on from that user's profile. And once again, we can test these so you can see the email address that is being displayed. I'm just going to cheat. There was a reason for me testing that. I'm just going to grab that email address, saves me typing it and getting it wrong. So I'm going to paste that in here as to who that email will go to. That way you can see it being sent. So that's, yeah, the email will be addressed to this person, but that could be also dynamic as well. And under the subject here, we'll have new support ticket. And with that, we could append things like the priority column and so on as well, if we get into the expression builder. So I'm just going to keep this simple for now and just say, please see ticketing system for new ticket. All right, and once we've done that, we could maybe show a message to the end user as well, so they know that something's going on with this one. So we'll have this as a successful message that displays for just a few seconds. And we'll say your ticket has been sent to the support desk. Okay, and obviously, whoops. There we go. All right, so, so there's our message. And once we've done that, we'll just simply close the form. Okay, so we've created a series of actions. That, of course, is very straightforward. We have got the ability to create conditions and loops. We can create variables and so on as well, and make these a little bit more complex. Of course, we might want to check for things like an email address existing and so on before we try to send an email. And that's the sort of thing that we can do with the conditions, either using the condition branch here, or you can also go through and add a condition to each action as well. Okay, so that's our new button, our save and submit button. So we're happy with that one, and let's just save that. So that's most of the work done. There's a lot more, obviously, that we can do with Lightning Forms on this form itself, but we're going to leave it there for Lightning Forms and get into some of the other products. Before I do, I'm just going to export the form design. So by doing that, we can now import that same look and feel into the other two forms, the display form and the edit form. So we're all good with that. Next thing we're going to get into is list actions. So with the list actions, you'll notice that we've got a Lightning list actions button at the top here. So we'll go into that, and we can add now a list action, and we're going to call this mark as completed. I could do the same thing that we looked at doing against the tab, and that is to make it visible only to maybe the help desk manager, but I'm just going to leave that blank for now. And we're going to work against selected items. So we'll choose the selected items here. So with this, we can set the scope that the action is going to fire upon. So it could be the entire list, it could be just a single selected item or multiple selected items, and that's controlling the behavior of when that button would show up. So then we'll configure the actions. And the actions that I want to configure, first of all, is a update item. So we're going to choose the update item action. And this is for the list on this current site. So we're going to come down here to find our tickets list. We're going to reference the ID of the selected item. So we can just simply put in the ID column in there. Every list and every list item has an ID. And then we can choose the field that we want to update. And I'm going to go through and update the status to read completed. And of course, we could use the expression builder to make that more complex if we want to, but that will do for now. And once I've done that, I'm going to reload the list here. There's nothing to configure in that. It's just going to reload the list so that we should see that update take place. So let's just OK that. Save our action. We could have created an icon for that as well, which I didn't do. So we've got our one item here. I'm just going to go in and create another ticket, which we'll need in a moment for the document generator. Okay, so under ticket information, let's just give this reference. We'll select a product. We'll choose a priority. So lightning conductor won't work. And of course, in our ticket history, we could start to put some things in here that we're doing to test this. So that would typically go on our edit form. So we'll just say hold customer, and then in the comments, reproduced issue in their environment, but it worked in mine. So yeah, there we can close it then if that's the case. All right, so the date and number of hours spent, and then we can save it. So that's created that new list item, and let's just put another one in here saying resolved. Customer used wrong version or something like that. Okay, so we've got our two items, and what you should see is we've got that total going on here. So we're totaling up the number of hours spent on this ticket. And of course, we've got the other ticket details as well that we could go through and set. Okay, so there's our save and submit button. So let's just hit that. So that's saving the item. There's our message to say that it's been sent to the support desk, and then it's going to automatically close the form so we can see the item being created. So if I want to now mark this as completed, what I can do is just simply select that item and click our mark as completed button. And you can see here that's changed it in real time, and we can see that that has now been marked as completed. And of course, we could close that ticket and so on. So the next thing we're going to do is just go back into Lightning Forms, and let's again just all right, so let's just bring this one in. So this is the edit form. So notice how we've got the correct layout and so on. And what we're going to do is just get into the command bar again, and we'll remove our save and submit. That no longer really makes sense on the edit form. It's already submitted, and we'll add here a print KB article, and we'll select an icon here. And we're going to choose a Word icon. And in the configure actions, we're going to take a look at the third tool here, which is the generate document premium action. So With this, we can upload a Word document template, and I've got that ready to go, so you don't have to watch me creating a Word document. So here it is. So we've got a support ticket knowledge base document, and it's going to capture some of the fields from the underlying SharePoint list. So notice we've got the title for the issue, we've got a description in here as well, and then we're going to loop through the ticket history to get the title and the comments from that and display those in a table so we can see everything that you would need to do to try and resolve this ticket if ever that was to come in again. So that's what we're going to upload here using the premium action. So we'll choose upload new template. And it's this one here, ticket template. It's going to work with a single item. So we could use this with list actions and have it run against multiple items if we want to. And then I'm also going to go through and choose the list that we want it to work against, the ID again of the item that we want it to fire on, and then we're just going to simply give it a file name, and I'll choose the title column for that. So we've got a dynamic file name being created. So that could go into the browser where I can open it straight away, or we could also save it out to a library and collect all these knowledge base articles in one place. So I'm just going to open it for now. So we'll just OK that. Let's save out our command bar actions, save and close our form. Okay, so we'll work with this one here. So let's go into the edit form. Okay. So we can see this is marked as completed. We've got the green here. We can see the ticket history being loaded up. All we need to do now is perhaps print a KB article. So we can click onto our button here and notice that has generated a document. So LT234, which is the ticket reference number. And as we open that up, there it is. We can scroll down and see the information of that ticket. So we can refer to this, we can share it with the customer if we want to, or we could print it as a PDF and so on. All right, so that's the document generator. And notice how we're also looping through that sublist as well using the loop statement and end loop. So that's how we're getting those multiple rows being shown inside that document. Okay, so we are there at 3 different products. We've still got Kudzu to go. So we've seen how we can use Lightning Forms. We also used the list actions to build a series of actions together that can be run from the command bar with inside a list. And we've also just taken a look at the document generator, so we can generate documents for record keeping or distributing to external people, or we could also print it if we want to do it, and then we could fax it to someone and do things the old-fashioned way. So last product we're going to get into is the Kudzu Form Migrator. So through our great partners Kudzu, we're going to look at how we can get started with Lightning Forms and SharePoint lists using an existing form that may have been created inside of InfoPath or a PDF or something along those lines. We could also bring data with it if we want to, and we've also got the ability to create brand new forms using the Kudzu bot. So let's get into that now. So just going to bring up SharePoint again. So we've got Kudzu Forms open here. You'll notice that we've got a number of different forms that I've already migrated. And what we're going to do is just overwrite one of them, which is the employment application. And I'm going to deploy that to our newly created site. So before I do anything more, I'm just going to grab the URL to this site that you saw me create. So we've got that to hand on the clipboard, and we're going to go into the form wizard first of all, and we're going to read in the form design from an InfoPath form. So as we go into the form wizard, there's a number of different form technologies that we can migrate from. So these could be Excel-based forms, even an image of a form. There's PDF forms and so on. We're going to select the InfoPath form option, and we will upload it. The other option is to point to a form library within inside of SharePoint. So I'm just going to go into my sample folders here and bring in the employment application XSN file. And There's a number of different options that we can configure. So we can specify the views from the InfoPath form that we want to bring across. Likewise with any hide when formatting rules and also trigger-based rules as well, like onload and change rules and so on. So they're set to yes. We can bring those across. And once we've read it, it's picked up the fact that I've already done this form. So I'm just going to overwrite that form here. But it will give us an idea as to how successful this form migration is going to be. So, of course, every single form can be different levels of complexity. There could be things that maybe Kudzu's not aware of, which in my experience is limited. But anything that is will show up either as a warning or something that you need to do manually and so on in here as well. So we can click onto the info in there and we can see what it's done. So it's discovered all of these fields, the data types for the fields, as well as any rules and so on around those as well. So we can always see the detail there, and we can also preview the form. So we can check that it was read correctly, and this is the layout. We've got the title area, we've got the image on there, we've got a mixture of different form layout or field layouts, so switching between 1 column to 3 column to 2 column layouts, and we've also got repeating tables as well that have been read into here, which will become sublists like you saw me create with the ticket history. So that's what the form will look like. We can, if we want to, go in and reimagine that form as well, changing any properties that we like. So I'm just going to hit finish for now. So that's the employment application here. And this is where we can reimagine the form. So as we click onto reimagine, if I wanted to change anything, maybe choices behind fields, or wanted to change some of the data types or even the labels for the forms, we can get in and do that as well. I'm just going to close that for now. And let's write it out. So we'll hit write. I'm going to write it out to Lightning Forms. So it'll be a Lightning Forms layout that we're using based on that same design. And we're going to create a new connection here to the site that we created, the LT ticketing system. We'll just give that a name so we can recognize it. So LT ticketing system again. Okay, and we'll test that we can authenticate with that site. We can see that site. Okay. So we'll just save that, and now, we'll hit go to go through and create that form. So as you can see, it's creating not just one SharePoint list in here, but it's creating multiple SharePoint lists. So anything that was a repeating table inside that InfoPath form is now becoming a sublist inside that same site, and it's now working on the actual form design once it's created the lists. Okay, so just about there, and then we'll go back into our ticketing system site and take a look at what's occurred. Okay, so back into the ticketing system. Let's come into our site contents. Just using that template, I've not got the site contents over there. Let me just get to it through here. Okay, and here you can see the lists have been created, employment applications. This is the primary list, and we've also got the sublists for things like education, skills, and so on as well. So we'll go into the education list. Oh, sorry, the employment applications list, and we'll jump into Lightning Forms first of all, and get into the new form. We've got the form layout. So yeah, there's the logo, the title. We've got our fields with a 1 column, then 3 column, then 2 column layout, and we've also got each of those sublists that were repeating tables generated inside this form as well. I'm just going to go through and make that form larger again, because we've got some wide tables on there. Let's just save and close it. And of course, whilst we're inside that design experience, we can do a lot of work using Lightning Forms, as you've just seen. So if we wanted to do any extra styling, conditional formatting, or any of the manual steps that Kudzu Form Migrator wasn't able to do, we'd be able to go through and recreate that logic using Lightning Forms. So let's just refresh, and then we'll hit new, and you'll be able to see that InfoPath form regenerated here as a Lightning form and SharePoint lists. So hitting new item, there's our full name column. We've got the layout that we want, and like I say, those repeating tables that we can complete. And if we click onto new for new education, notice how that's opened up another side panel, and we've also got the customized form there, exactly how it was appearing inside the InfoPath form. Okay, so that is migrating an InfoPath form. I'm going to show you a new feature which the Kudzu guys have created, and that's the Kudzu bot. And with this, we can use AI in order to generate a brand new form of whatever type we want, and have that actually go through and create the form inside of SharePoint as well. So this could be anything like anything you can imagine. So we could have a create employee tea and coffee order form. So let's see what it makes of that one. So we'll hit go. So I struggle with trying to remember how many sugars people have and whether they like milk, whether they like it strong, what their favorite brand of coffee is, and so on. So I could just create this instead, and it's got all of the fields that I need. So we've got the milk type. Fortunately, everybody just goes with normal milk, I think, here. But then we've also got the number of sugars, the time that they prefer it to be delivered. We've also got tea type and so on as well. So department they work in, most of the things that we can imagine. But yeah, we could also go through and add additional things as well using that. So we've even got preferred color mug or something that we could also add to it. So that's one use. So we could hit go on that one. So that's creating the form for me. We could preview it in here as well. So this is what it's going to look like. We've also got allergies on there as well. Oh, let's do one more. We've got time. So I'll go back into the Kudzu bot. Let's just create one more. So we'll have create a support ticket form. So let's suppose we didn't use the template from Microsoft. We'll go with this one. And now we have a support ticket form. Again, with different options in there for the different types of things that we want to do. There's the preview of that. So again, we could go through and do the same thing as what we did with InfoPath and write that out to a SharePoint list powered by Lightning Forms. So let's write this out, and we'll again write that out to Lightning Forms. We'll include that LT ticketing system site, and that's where we'll go through and create our new Lightning Tools ticket creation form. So this could be our starting point. Let's just navigate back to that site. Again, we'll go to site contents. So here's our Lightning Tools ticket creation list. So we've got all of the different fields, and let's just go and hit new on that one. Okay, so there's all the fields that we're after. I just need to do a refresh, I think, to get the layout. Okay, there we go. So there's our layout, and I'm just intrigued what it did here for the choices. Well, I guess we'll see when we go to create a new item. But there's the layout for that new form with the different fields all created for me. Okay, so that's the new feature of Kudzu Forms, giving you the ability to create forms using the Kudzu bot. Guys at Kudzu have a trial of that as well, which gives you 25 tokens, so you can use that to give the Kudzu bot a go about any forms that you want to get creating. So at that point then, I'll thank everybody for attending. I hope you found this useful. And like I say, if there is any questions that you can think of, feel free to reach out to me on Brett at Lightning Tools. But yeah, thank you for now. Take care.